We think that generally it'll be a more stable interest rate environment in 2020. Trend, a broad trend for the 10-year U.S. Treasury, something around 150 to 2.25. So we think it'll be a little bit less exciting year in 2020 compared to 2019. Central bank policy in 2020 away from the U.S. will be pretty much steady as it goes. I think the ECB just re-embarked on easing and quantitative easing. That's going to continue through 2020 and frankly probably through 2021, which means rates are going to stay low for for quite a while in Europe. The same will be true for the Bank of Japan. The UK could be a little bit more interesting because we'll see how the economy reacts post-Brexit, and so I think the Bank of England, in terms of what they do, is a little bit up in the air, but they're probably more in the easing mode, given that the Brexit will be some uncertainty with regard to the economy going forward in 2020. More immediately, it will be trade rather than politics. That will definitely develop as the year goes on. But you could see, even in the second half of 2019, with regard to fixed income and the trade story, we saw, rates come down quite a bit during the summer when we thought the U.S.-China trade war was going to continue and even maybe accelerate with regard to sort of bad news, and that was one of the reasons why rates came down. And then in Q4 here, we've seen rates stabilize and move a little higher as we've gotten more positive news with regard to a phase one deal. There's a couple of things that we like with regard to rates. One would be on the developed market side, and one would be on the emerging market side. So from the developed market side, one country that we like is Norway. If you look in 2019, Norway was one of the few countries that, along with the U.S., was tightening monetary policy. And in 2020, we think we're going to see a reversal of that, probably here in the first half of the year. Another area that we like is actually away from the developed market is emerging market local rates. Emerging market local underperformed both external and underperformed both the U.S. Treasuries last year, and it was really mostly driven by the foreign exchange. EMFX underperformed in 2019 due partly because of the slowdown in the global economy, due partly because of the China-U.S. trade conflict. And we think with those headwinds beginning to fade a little bit, we can see a bounce back in emerging markets local rates. We expect 2020 to be a continuation of what we saw in 2019 with regard to growth. Moderate growth around the world, with U.S. growth leading the way. I think if there's curveballs in 2020, I think it really will be related to the U.S. political cycle. What could happen with regard to the Democrat candidate? It's still a wide open field. We know who the favorites are right now. We've got Warren, we've got Biden, but you can still see potentially another moderate come up that could be a curveball, or we have something that will be a little bit more surprising and going to Sanders, which would be a more of a far left policy. So I would watch what happens in the Democratic race, because the curveball could come from what could potentially happen with ongoing tax policy and regulation policy going forward.